Hello everyone, this is CJ with Cycletron. Well, you may notice I'm on a new bike, 2020 Suzuki Katana. My wife bought this for me for our 25th wedding anniversary. Quite unexpected, but I was very pleased to get this bike. I'm gonna have to unload one of my bikes though from the stable, probably the Copart Special. Sell it while used bike prices are still hot. So I will do a detailed review, if you will, or my impressions of this bike after I've got a few more miles on it. I just picked it up, so I've only got 63 miles on it. Had 0 miles on it when I picked it up. So a little early to be doing much of a review. But I would like to talk about an interesting aspect of the buying experience that I had. I never had this happen on any type of vehicle deal in my life. So, as you know, buying a new bike right now is kind of tough. Inventory's low. This particular bike came out in late summer of 2019 as a 2020 model. And to say that it sold poorly would be an understatement. You know, a lot of the motorcycle press was down on the bike because it only had around 135 mile fuel range, which, you know, it's not really intended to be a sport tourer, but that is a little on the lean side. I'll grant that. And the $13,500 MSRP was rather high, and I get that. And the technology's based on like a 15-year-old Gixxer, which again is fine. And then the thing that really hurt it, I think, was the 32.5-inch seat height. It was too tall for many people. You know, I've got a 34-inch inseam, so it's not an issue. So anyway, in my town, there's 2 dealerships that sell Suzukis, and the one dealership had 3 in stock, and he sold them all in the last couple of weeks. So only Katana left in town was at this dedicated Suzuki dealer near where I live. So I went in there after my wife gave me the green light. She went with me, said, hey, if you want to do a deal on this, I'll get it for you. It's like, cool. So Suzuki has a $2,000 rebate on this bike beginning in July, up from the previous $1,500 rebate. So they're trying to move these out. So I got there and said, yeah, the rebate's still good. My wife was going to pay cash for the bike, but then they said, hey, we'll give you a $2,000 rebate. They ran my credit. They go, you know, we'll give you a 1.99% interest rate for 36 months. You know, like that's pretty solid. We'll just keep the cash and finance it for 2%. Probably end up paying it off early anyway. I didn't ask them for any discount on the price of the bike because really nobody's discounting their bikes these days. And I figured with the increased rebate to $2,000, this bike wasn't going to be around long anyway. I mean, that was my thinking. So I just said, hey, okay, we'll take your MSRP minus the $2,000 rebate, and I'll take the 1.99 on the $8,500 difference. So we put $4,500 down. You know, we had to pay tax on it too. They collect the tax in my state at the time of purchase on a vehicle. So off I go with the new bike. The next day the dealer calls me and says, oh, I made a mistake. You weren't supposed to get both the rebate and the 1.99% interest rate. And I said, okay. He said, well, what the interest rate would have been if we had done it right was 8%. I'm like, 8%? I never pay that kind of rate. I've got good credit. 8%'s out of the question. Well, that's because we only shop at the one place. I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I said I'd talk about it with my wife. So half hour later I called her back. I said, here's the deal. The difference between 8% and 2% over a 36-month term for $8,500 balance is 820 something bucks. So I'll just come back in, completely redo the deal at 8%, but you take $820 off the price because of the difference in interest rate, because that's the deal you gave me. And you didn't take any off the price. It was straight up deal aside from the rebate. And they said, fine. So the next day I get this email saying, oh, well, we decided we're just going to finance it ourselves because the cheapest rate we can find for you is now 10%. We can't even get 8%. I'm like, what? They said, they tried to tell me I had bad credit, which I know is not true. So I called the finance company to see, hey, is this deal actually done? They told me they killed the deal in your system. Is that true? They said, yeah, the dealer retracted the deal. I said, can they do that? They said, yeah, we allow dealers to pull a deal. If they make a mistake or there's some other issue, they could just unilaterally blow up the deal, which is interesting. I didn't know they could do that. I mean, I had a signed contract for the financing and the sales agreement. Said I was financing $8,500 over a 36-month term at 1.99% interest. Showed the whole deal, what the interest would be over the life of the loan and everything else. So anyway, they blew up the deal. And I get this email saying, we're just going to finance it directly. So sign the promissory note, fill in the name of our dealership as a lien holder on the back of the title, and do all this other rigmarole, and then you'll be financing directly with the dealership. And if you ever pay it off early, call us and we'll have to run the numbers to figure out what the payoff is. I'm like, I thought about that for about a day, and I'm like, this is just too weird. So I just dropped off a check for the balance, just paid the whole thing off. Don't want to deal with those people. Didn't ask them for the $800 of the difference in the interest rates, because it's like, just be out of my life, people. But anyway, I'm not telling you this story to rant about this particular dealership. I mean, you'll note that I didn't mention the name of this place, although if you live in this area, you'll probably figure out who it is. But it's just more generic about, you know, for me, learning how a dealer can unilaterally blow up a deal. So I'm curious, Art, if you're watching, if you could weigh in on this, if you've had an experience like this. You know, the dealer told me that if I didn't redo the deal, they were going to be out $2,000 because they would have to honor the finance agreement, and then they had to pay back the rebate. So that's why I was playing ball with them. But it turns out either they had already canceled the deal or they would have anyway, regardless of what I said. I agreed to redo the deal, but they told me it would be with the same company at a higher interest rate. Then they came back with this weird deal of financing through their own dealership. So that was kind of interesting. But anyway, that's all behind me. I'm back on the bike. It's a beautiful evening. Hope everybody's getting a lot of good riding time out there. So please let me know your thoughts. Have you ever had even if it was inadvertent, bait and switch type deal, where presto changeo, your 1% or 2% loan goes to 8% or more, or you can't do it at all? I mean, like I said, we were going to pay cash for the whole deal, and we're like, oh, you give us 2%. That's like almost free money. We'll save some cash and pay it off when we get around to it. So that wasn't meant to be. I mean, I was sympathetic. I didn't want the dealer to have to make an honest mistake and pay $2,000 out of his pocket as a result. But the way it all played out, I think they were a little less than candid, honestly, about what was going on. I still honestly don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if they found another buyer for this bike, because after all that, I started to say this has been a huge pain in the rear. Before I could finish to tell the owner that I'm just going to bring a check back for the balance, the first words out of his mouth was, oh, if you want to blow up the deal, just bring the bike back. I'm like, hey, you're getting ahead of me. I'm just going to pay it off. Oh, okay, that works. Kind of weird deal. Ah, well. If that's the worst thing I got to worry about in my week, then I'm doing pretty good. So please let me know your thoughts out there, and please stay tuned for future videos. Thanks very much.